Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any arm.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance. I am your host, Roger Landry, the founder and managing director of the Liberty Beacon Project. EPI, of course, for anybody who doesn't know, is the mission statement of the Liberty Beacon Project. Yeah, it's easily explained in 3 words or 3 letters. Those 3 letters stand for Eradicating Programmed Ignorance. This is our entire mission statement. This is what we're here for. We live in a society today that is so programmed with ignorance, you don't know what you're being taught in school. You don't know what's being put into your bodies. You don't know what you're allowed to put in your bodies, and what you are allowed to put in your bodies aren't the things that should be going in your bodies. And I could go on and on and on. This is all programmed ignorance. None of this needs to happen, and none of it has to happen if we step up to make sure that it stops happening. Today I have 3 special ladies with me because these are individuals who taught me a lesson. I am one of those die-hard anti-vaccine individuals that constantly pushes there is no middle ground, or constantly pushed, that it has to be an all or nothing. And then I ran across some very, very intelligent ladies who, I don't know, showed me that there had to be a middle ground. There's a heck of a lot of people out there who do not believe that vaccines are harmful. There's a heck of a lot of people out there who do believe vaccines are harmful all the time. And in between is a ground, it's a dead man's ground. It's a no man's zone. There are very few people in the middle, and the common ground is getting further and further by the day until you run into an organization, Millions March Against Mandatory Vaccines. Why are they special? This is not an anti-vaccine group, although some of their members, I'm sure, will espouse to that opinion. This is a group that states I should have the right to decide what you put in my body. We have put people to death in the Nuremberg trials for doing what mandatory enforced vaccinations would in fact do. These are not all anti-vaccine individuals. These are pro-rights. It is your right to decide what goes into your body. It is your right to have informed consent so that you know what's going into your body. This is what I found out from these 3 ladies. The last conversation I had with the 3 of them, I learned a lot. And I'm one of these people who espouses the fact that I know a lot, but I was taught things. I was taught that there is a middle ground, and without that middle ground, those of us on the extreme ends will never meet, and that's not good. So my extreme gratitude to all 3 of you ladies, and you have a big old event coming up at the end of the month. So I'm going to start off by asking Mary Ellen, who's one of the 3 ladies, to give a short synopsis of who she is and why she is part of the administrative portion of this phenomenal organization. How are you, Mary Ellen?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Roger. I just want to tell you how much we truly appreciate this opportunity, and you nailed it. My name is Mary Ellen Sunshine, and I am one of the co-founders of Millions March Against Mandatory Vaccination. And the reason why this is so important to me and to the other founders is because we have seen what has been taking place over the last year in how the draconian bills have come out. This is no longer a vaccine debate with us. This is coming down to strictly freedoms only. If people want to vaccinate, we support that. We just ask that you educate yourself as you do with anything that, you know, whether you're eating, drinking, anything to do with yourself, we just ask that you educate yourself. Those that are anti-vaxxers, we support them as well, if that's what you choose. We're not an anti-vaccine group. We are an anti-mandate group strictly. This is only about freedoms. That's all we are preaching and promoting. We do our best to educate on the ingredients of vaccines and the studies that are out there that you do not hear in the mainstream media. And with that, we don't try to preach to the legislators or our representatives. We strictly try to go and educate the people and educate the public. We had an event last year in August, and that was our target. We did it strategically on a Saturday for that exact reason. It was nothing to do with politicians. It was nothing to do with politics. It was to reach the public because of the censorship that's taking place on Facebook, on the media, on Amazon, where they're removing books on this side of the topic. It's like you cannot even question what is anything to do with a vaccine unless you're following the script or the narrative that the media puts out. Anything other than that, you're labeled an anti-vaxxer, you're labeled a quack. And those terms are used by the media purposely to incite fear, to incite backlash, to incite ways to discredit the people. And we have to get out there and tell the people that there's more to that. There's, you know, you really have to dig deep. There's things going on that people aren't aware of. And that is our mission. That is our goal with our upcoming second nationwide event that we even have branched off into other countries. So we're super excited about it. And it's being held on a Saturday. We want to get out there. We want to promote what has taken place and educate the public as much as possible.
There's one thing I don't agree with you on. Of everything you said was just absolutely sterling, okay? You sort of played down just a little bit of the emphasis, which I think you so rightfully put on freedoms. This is about freedom. As a matter of fact, it's more about freedom than anything else, and I've heard that from you more than just about anybody else. So yes, please, yes. It's absolutely brilliant. And let's go on to our next one so that we can have some time for you ladies and me to talk about a few things that really piss us off.
Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce Maggie. She's one of our, another co-founder, Maggie Strugnell, and she's going to take over.
Hi.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Roger. Thank you for that great introduction there, and thank you, Mary Ellen, for getting into all of that. So I am Maggie Strugnell. I have two young kids. One just turned 2, and the other is about to turn 6. They are my main reason that I am in this. Then their freedoms that they aren't even aware of. I believe that we need to reach the people, reaching the legislators and the government. They've tried that for years. Now is the time where we need to educate as many people as we can so that they see what we see and make better decisions. Pretty much, more or less.
Agreed.
I think that a lot of people don't know, like Mary Ellen said, a lot of people aren't aware of what's going on. A lot of people, don't follow bills that are being introduced. And
programmed ignorance.
They don't think that certain things can happen. So here we are. My main goal is to say, look, this is what is happening. Whether you want to believe it right now or not, I'm going to lay the facts out in front of you, and you can make that decision for yourself. But at the end of the day, it's about my kids for me. I love it. I do not believe that anybody, whether government or a doctor or a pediatrician or a nurse or whoever you may be, I do not believe you have any right to tell me what I can or cannot do with my children. Those are my kids. I have parental rights. You don't get to tell me what I have to put into them. Right?
You know what? I'm starting to realize when I said 3 very strong, intelligent ladies, do you know what it's like being the only alpha male sitting with 3 extremely intelligent alpha females? Come on. If I get out of this unscathed, I'm going to say a prayer.
Well, it's nice because between the 3 of us, while we see, the common ground between all of us, we all have our own reasons as to why we're in this. And while they all come together for the same reasons, we're all in it for something else.
I agree.
At the same time, in it for the same reasons as well.
All right, so we've got one left, and I know who that is. Hello, Allie.
Hey, Roger. How's it going?
It's going good, and I just can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Oh, are you ready? I have a diatribe ready for you.
Go for it, lady.
All right. So, hi, everybody. I'm Allie French. I got into what some people might refer to as the movement here just a couple years ago, probably 2.5 years ago. And for me, it was a sudden realization that our rights, our constitutional rights, our God-given rights, were at risk. And I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. I can't just, go on about my day and pretend like it's not happening because it makes my life easier. Because even if it makes my life easier today, what is my child going to have to live with in 20 years or his children in 60 years or whatever it may be? And I can't just sit by and allow bills and things to happen that take those rights away from him or anybody else for that matter. So on Saturday, May 30th, is our 2nd annual Millions March Against Mandatory Vaccination event. It's not against vaccinations themselves, but against the mandate of vaccination. This is a peaceful event, and it's happening all across the nation. We are pro-informed consent. This is pro-family. This is pro-safety. This is pro-freedom. This is about your right to decide what gets injected into you and your children's bodies with no penalties held against you for spacing out vaccines or choosing to decline one, some, none, or all. Again, this is not anti-vax, although most of our members and our admins are. This is anti-mandatory vaccines, like they've already implemented in California and in New York. This is anti-forced compliance. This is anti-coerced compliance, and it's anti-bullied compliance. We have extremely pro-vaccine people that still come out to this event because they understand that mandating vaccines on people or forcing them to comply is wrong, period. I'm going to jump a little into what's currently going on. If you don't want, for instance, the new Bill Gates vaccine in order to return to normal and open society again, then I invite you to show up, because that means if you don't want mandatory vaccines to return to work again or to open your business again, I invite you to show up. If you don't want mandatory vaccines to renew your driver's license or mandatory vaccines to fly, I invite you to show up. If you don't want this vaccine forced on your children in order to return to school, I invite you to show up. Mandatory vaccines have been happening all around the world, and they are coming for America as we speak. Until you wake up to this corrupt medical tyranny, I'll be fighting for you, and so will the other members of our group. These rights that will absolutely be stripped from you in the future if you don't stand up against this. The government may not be able to go house to house and force vaccinate, although there's always that lingering threat. But they can take control of a lot, making your life extremely difficult and challenging if you do not comply with everyone else's that's willing. The masks are already conditioning us for this, as everyone has been willing to do what's required of them to reopen, admitting that we have all too much to lose if we don't comply with the masks. I hope you will see this not about where you stand on vaccines for yourself or your family. This is about our freedoms and the Constitution. This has no place in America.
Okay, now why don't you tell us what you really think? Look, I want to start out by saying something to our audience that proves unequivocally everything that was just said by these 3 excellent ladies. Let's start out by talking about a law that's about to be passed in the UK. okay, in the United Kingdom, which states that you don't get an MMR vaccine, you don't get nothing. Let me explain to everybody why these ladies are so adamant about the freedom to choose issue. It is also in the United States becoming mandatory, which it already is in California, that your infant have an MMR vaccine. This is something that's approved by, of course, people like Paul Offit. Yep. Anyway, I'm sorry for the profanity. And others who are basically shills. Now, let me tell you about the MMR vaccine 15 years ago. Let me tell you about an in-house research program that was run, and one of the researchers was a doctor named Dr. Thompson. They ran a MMR vaccine against what happens after the fact. Is autism triggered? What other issues come from issuing the MMR vaccine to certain infants below a certain age? And I think it was basically at birth, within like 6 weeks. What they found out was that if you give this shot, which is pretty much mandated, like I said, in some states like California, what happens is the male infant children given this shot are 150% more likely to get autism. The African American male infant children are almost 220% more likely to end up with autism. What happened after this was completed was they went around with a garbage can to all of the researchers, once they found out what the results were, had them put all of their research in a garbage can, and they flamed it. They burned it. The fact is, what we need to consider here today is what you're being told, what these women said, is not the truth. What is being pumped out to us is not the truth. One more step here, and then I want to throw the ball into you ladies' courts, because I got to tell you something. Allie actually took this where it needs to go. The biggest threat for vaccines right now on humanity is what's about to hit us. The Congress has already stepped up and given Gates and all of his buddies indemnity, which means they can't get sued no matter how many people this thing kills. It's also for a virus. Anybody who knows anything about viruses know that they warp out of reality so fast. They change at such a high rate that the flu vaccine that was good last year isn't probably going to be good at all this year, because it's 200 strains, and they only make the vaccine good for about a dozen of them. So here we go. We're looking at situation after situation after situation where we're putting our children in danger. How do we know this? We have whistleblowers stepping up to say these are the most dangerous things humanity has had to live with. Now, that's a big statement. I'm done. Give me 30 more seconds. Why do I say that? If you take all of the vaccine-damaged individuals by the CDC's own count, they say the average is 30,000 a year, but that could be only 1 to 10% of the actual cases that are ever reported. If it's 30,000 a year and it's 1%, that's 3 million a year. We've been doing vaccines across the planet for almost 100 years now. If we have a possibility of between 1 and 3 million cases of vaccine damage a year in this country alone, I'm going to tell you without any reservation whatsoever, and I dare anybody to prove it wrong, vaccines have caused more harm and more death in the last century of use than any war in human history. That's an absolute fact. And where do you think I stand on vaccines, Mary Ellen?
Hey, you're welcome to the team, brother. No doubt about that. And we wholeheartedly agree with you. And, I mean, I just can't stress it enough. Since vaccines started, since they were invented, there's been backlash and people have spoke out. This anti-vaccine movement didn't start with Jenny McCarthy. All these, that's what the media likes to brainwash people with, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I came across an article, or not an article, it was an old article from 100 years ago. In 1919 is when it was dated, when we launched our group last year, and it was large group of people that was that were protesting against mandatory vaccination. And here we are 100 years later, and I can't stress it enough. The only reason we even have the freedoms to choose today is because people of our past united for this exact cause. So it truly, truly is our responsibility right now to not only maintain the freedoms that we have to choose, but also preserve them for future generations. Because if we fail at this, we have failed future generations, and I can't live with that thought. Just the magnitude of what that would, encompass.
You just made a point that I have to say something about, and just real short here, okay? Any liberty that is taken away by force can be regained by force. Any liberty that is given up freely will never be regained. It's up to us to speak up, or what Mary Ellen just said will be the result. And let's hear from the other two, because we're approaching a half hour here, and I would like, and Allie, why don't you do me a favor and talk last and put into perspective date, time, hopes, everything for the projects on your final words. But let's go to your third member and see what she has to say about all of this. What do you think about what's going on globally right now?
So I'm gonna jump back to what you just said really quick, because you said any liberty that is taken away by force can be taken back by force. See, I agree with that, but the problem is we're letting the majority of the population is letting the liberties being taken away by force in the first place. How many do you think are actually going to stand up to take them back by force once they're gone?
These are the people who have willingly given it up. As you say, they're standing by and letting this happen. And my comment was, if you willingly give it up, you can't get it back.
Right. Exactly. It's a struggle right now just to get people to understand the difference of your liberty being taken away, your freedom being taken away right now. They don't even see that.
Yes.
So, how do you think your freedoms are being Hello? How do you not see what's happening right now?
Yeah.
I'm in Illinois.
Locked in your house is unconstitutional. It is. Being locked in your house is unconstitutional. End of story.
Well, in Illinois, we've got our governor is now threatening to use law enforcement against anybody, any businesses, any person that is defying his orders. And we've had certain counties that have county sheriffs and stuff that have stood up and said, we're not doing this. We will not penalize you. But for a majority of the population in Illinois, people are going along with it. I'm like, you guys need to wake up.
That's why we're here, and you're absolutely right. Okay, Allie, let's wind this up. Let's put out any information that you have that the three of you would like people to know about the upcoming event. And for everybody listening right now, as you realize this is embedded in an article, please read the article. It will give you all of the information again so that you can pass it around, as well as this video. Please, Allie.
All right. Well, our next event is on Saturday, May 30th. With Millions March Against Mandatory Vaccination. And it is very important that we understand that this is about raising public awareness. So many people have been programmed into ignorance, and we are helping to eradicate that in a specific area of mandated vaccination. It is tyrannical, and people need to know about this. So on May 30th, across the nation and even in a few other countries, we're simply going to go out and raise awareness in our own communities. You can very easily find us on Facebook, MMAMV, or online. You can find us at www.unitedmmamv.com.
The links will be in the article. Yes.
Which will be in the article. And come out and get some information or join us. Come share your story with others so they can understand why this is such an important decision, an important right that we make sure that we maintain that. So again, May 30th, we hope to see you all out there.
I gotta tell you something. I usually get a chance to shine because a lot of times I get stuck on shows where even the people asking you the questions, they're not dumb, but they are just so programmed, it's insane. And when you try to answer questions that these people give to you, you can hear the gasps in their voice. They're like, oh, my God, is that real? I'm sitting, like I said, and we're talking obviously virtually, I'm sitting with three extremely intelligent ladies who have taken the time to understand, taken the time to do the research, taken the time to listen to what people say and know when it's right and when it's wrong, taken the time to put together through a lot of efforts. These are mothers, these are wives, these are, okay, stop and think about this. They're putting together a global movement for your rights. I don't think that I've had a better show in a very long time. And I've really, really enjoyed all three of your company. And Mary Ellen, I want to give you a special thanks for arranging this with me. Allie, it's been a while. Actually, I haven't talked to either one of you other two in a while, so this has been a treat for me. It really has.
Well, we really appreciate Roger. It's been crazy times over here.
I can believe it. I can believe it. And I'm going to say good night and tell the whole audience here, please take a look at the article. Please click on the links. If you have any questions at all, these are the right ladies to give them to. All right? And would the three of you please give us a goodbye?
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And we're done.